Greetings, everyone, and welcome to my list of the top 12 best swordsmen and women, not forgetting about you, Toshiki, Kawaii Desune, in all of One Piece. Kachik? Shing! Haha. Well, okay, so it's going to be basically the same thing that I did with the One Piece boob poll. For those of you that are uninitiated, I did a One Piece boob poll a while back, where with that, I felt like, you know, you're clicking on a video that has boobs in the title. I got to throw you some boobs right at the beginning. So for this, I felt it necessary to throw out some sharp and hot sword action right at the beginning. Oh, wow. Check out all those swords. Those are pretty sharp, right? Oh, that's a masterful blade. Oh, that sword's on fire. No, literally, it's on fire. It's Foss's sword. That's crazy, yeah. Whew, I am getting steamed up, let me tell you. I don't even know if I could show that on YouTube, but you know what? I don't care, because I love my fans. Alright, so, the reason we're doing top 12 is because I was going to do top 10, but I'm looking at it, and I'm looking at the ones that ranked, like, just outside of the top 10, and the number 12 spot was a big surprise for me. Someone that I did not think was going to rank this high, because they're fairly new to the series. So I'm like, alright, because that one person ranks so high at number 12, we'll include them in the list, which of course means I have to include number 11 as well. And another side reason for that is the only female that ranked in the top 10 was Toshiki. We all understand that. Oh, by the way, in fact, all of them on that poster ranked in the top 10 except for... Okay, hold on a second. I gotta fix something with that poster. Okay, that's better. Sorry, Kinemon, you just didn't make the cut. And actually, Kinemon did really poorly. Kinemon only got 36 votes, so not a lot of fans of Kinemon. I mean, his sword can catch on fire, too. Come on, what's with it? But, yeah, the number 11 and number 12 spots are also held by women, so I thought, okay, that'll get a little bit of a more female presence, swordswoman presence here in One Piece. So let's just get right to it. Number 12 is Okiku with 312 votes. So this was a big surprise for me. Okiku, if you're just an anime viewer, then you don't even know who that is. I guess spoilers at this point. I'm not going to go into tremendous detail because I honestly don't know much about her. Nobody does because she was just recently introduced in the series, only about maybe like less than 10 chapters ago, really, as soon as the crew got to Wano. She first appears as just a mild-mannered tea shop employee that was pursued by this giant sumo wrestler dude, Urashima, constantly asking her to become his wife, but then after Otama is kidnapped, I guess this is spoilers, they go into the Bakura district, and Okiku is kind of leading Zorro and Luffy because she's the one that knows her way around Wano, and then she busts out a sword, and she's actually a really badass samurai, and on top of that, she's also really huge. I mean, not like ridiculously huge like Big Mom or Whitebeard, but she towers over Luffy and Zorro easily. She's like 3 meters, 4 meters tall or something like that, so kind of more into like that giant human sort of subtype there. But she clearly knows her way around a sword. We just don't know what her story is, really. How she came to work at the tea shop, what's her relationship with the samurai of Wano. She definitely has ties to the Kozuki clan, but how exactly does that work? And so Okiku is clearly trained with the sword, has been raised in this samurai culture, which is interesting because she is a woman, and in Wano, it's kind of like in that caste system, and women really don't have much of a presence in Wano outside of just, like, the working class, or, like, what Robin's doing with, like, the geisha, the dancing things. Certainly, women cannot be samurai in Wano, which has actually raised dispute of Okiku's gender, because the way she announces herself is a way that a male samurai would do so. However, I feel like since Wano doesn't have a lot of female samurais, or probably none, there's probably not a way for her to announce her presence as a samurai, so she probably just uses the same way that a man would. Also, I don't know if we're gonna go like a Mulan route with this, and she pretended to be a man in order to get into the samurai, or something like that. We don't know. She has connections to Shuten Maru, who is apparently somebody that's like a roving gang of thieves, that he's the leader of that, so we don't really know what the connection is there. She's at least aware of his presence, but once again, she was just introduced in the series like only a few months ago, so there's really not much to go off of here. I'm just really happy that she made it on the list, and I know why she made it on the list. It's not because, you know, she did anything really important in the series yet, because I think to date, her most stunning achievement is lopping off the top knot of a very large sumo wrestler. I guess all sumo wrestlers are large, so that's not much of a, you know, clarifier, but, you know, that's like her biggest thing. Granted, that was a really cool scene where she did that flip in in the air and like shing, but that's really all she's done so far. So Oda clearly has her set up to do other things, and we're gonna find out about her backstory and everything. She might be related to the Kiku Hime from the One Piece X Kyoto thing. I'm not sure where that's going, but Oda clearly has a plan for her, and I'm sure the reason why a lot of people voted for her was just because she's new and she's prevalent in a lot of people's minds. But hey, going along with that same logic, Hold'em is also a sword user, and I left him on the list, and Hold'em did very poorly. I didn't write down how many Hold'em got, but it was like less than 10. It wasn't that many votes. So, yeah, I think, or maybe just because she's a big woman. Maybe a lot of people in my audience are just fans of very large women, and they're like, oh, well, Kiku, and she's got a sword. She has my vote, but yeah. Alright, so, moving on to number 11, another sword mistress, and this is, with 375 votes, Rebecca. Okay, so with Okiku, it was like, alright, she's pretty cool. She's a new character. I can put her on the list. I think we all know why I was happy why Rebecca's, included now at number 11, because, yeah, okay. But, boobs aside, for now anyway, Rebecca is very skilled with the sword. She was trained in the art by her father, who just happened to be in the form of a toy soldier at the time. Whatever, yeah. Kinemon is angry. But anyway, yeah, Rebecca was trained in the art of the sword by Kiros when she was very young. However, just because of her pacifist kind of nature, she doesn't really want to hurt anybody. So even after becoming a scantily clad gladiator in the Colosseum, and even after everyone is just despising her, whenever she gets on stage, they all just basically boo her off because she is the granddaughter of King Riku, who was built up to be this horrible person by Doflamingo. It was all lies, but even despite all of that opposition and being booed and just lambasted all the time and stuff, people just throwing rotten food at her and everything, she still didn't lash out. She knew how to use a sword, but she used it in such a way where she wouldn't critically injure anyone, and you gotta kind of commend her for that. It also takes a little bit of restraint and skill for that. I mean, not just getting trained in the art of the sword, but imagine yourself in a Colosseum setting. People are all around you coming at you with a variety of different weapons, not just swords. There were people that used fire and devil fruits, like anything is fair game in this Colosseum, and they're just coming at you, and Rebecca, she's 16 years old, she doesn't have a devil fruit, she doesn't know hockey, she's just armed with her scantily clad armor, which cannot be very practical, and also a sword, and that's all she's got. But just using that, she didn't really get hurt all that much, and she was able to defend herself from attacks and knock people off. So, I think it's just a different kind of fighting with a sword, not the kind that we're sort of accustomed to in One Piece, because we always like to see, like, Zorro whipping out a katana and just cutting a dude in half. But, yeah, with Rebecca, you gotta commend her for her certain style that, fits more for her personality. Also, by the way, did Zorro get on the list? I didn't even check. I guess he didn't. Weird. Okay, that's fine. I mean, I'm alright with that. I mean, it's you guys that voted and everything. I'm gonna be perfectly fine with the results, but, okay, that's interesting. Moving on, though, now to the top 10. Do-do-do-do-do. Number 10, with 398 votes, the samurai, Ryuma. Ooh, spooky ghost samurai zombie. So, Ryuma was really our first induction to the idea of a samurai in One Piece. Of course, Zorro just kind of emanates that samurai vibe. So does Koshiro, who is his master at the dojo, but we didn't really get to see Koshiro all that much. When we get to Ryuma, this is not just a confirmation that Oda's one-shot Monsters is in the same canon as One Piece, but also that there's an entire country of samurai out there somewhere. The country of Wano, which is where we're at right now in the manga. Keep in mind, though, Ryuma was introduced in Thriller Bark, which was over 10 years ago, so it took us a little while to get to this point, but we're here, and I guess that's all that matters. So, Ryuma was dead for several hundred years before Zorro was even born, but through the power of the Kage Kage no Mi and Hogback's general mad science tree, he managed to resurrect him with Brook's shadow. So for that reason, he has Brook's speech pattern, but still has all of his memories as Ryuma. Key notes from when Ryuma was alive: he slayed a dragon. Other famous moments of his life consist of, you don't need to know anything else because he slayed a fucking dragon! What else do you need on the resume at that point? Like, oh, you're a good swordsman, huh? What did you do? Slay a dragon? Alright, what else? You don't need it, because you slayed a dragon. You have the job, whatever it is. You now officially qualify to be an airline pilot, because you slayed a dragon. It's the ultimate resume, you know? So yeah, and their battle, Zorro and Ryuma, it was done in sort of a realistic way, where the fight did not... I mean, like, Oda could have went crazy with that. Can you imagine? Like, he could have had, like, a 4 or 5 chapter fight of Ryuma and Zorro just duking it out, but he did it in such a way that was like, these are two really finely tuned sword masters, Zorro and Ryuma. And so their fight was very evenly matched, and Brook even said, like, it's probably not going to last very long because they're just so good. And even so, Zorro had a handicap in that fight because Yubashiri at this point was broken and he didn't have Shusui, sorry. He didn't have Shusui yet. Shusui was the blade that was currently wielded by Ryuma, so Zorro had a handicap in that fight, and when the battle was continuing and they were on top of the roof, Zorro even had a moment where he was looking at his Wado and his Katetsu, and he's like, you know, if this fight goes on any longer, there's a serious concern that my sword might get broken. One of them might. I don't know about the Wado. The Wado is the same rank as Shusui. It's an Owazamono, but the Katetsu is just a regular Wazamono, so it's very likely that if that fight would have continued much longer, Ryuma had the skills and the blade in order to snap Zorro's swords. In fact, a lot of Ryuma's techniques consisted of sword-breaking moves. Now, because he had Brook's shadow, that's how he was animated, he fights in a very, in the fencing style that Brook uses, except it's just brought up to a whole new level. So whenever Brook uses like a thrust attack, it's just a normal thrust. It'll still kill you. It's just an ordinary thrust, you know? But when Ryuma uses that same technique, it has enough air pressure to like blast a hole in the wall, you know? The same thing with Zorro's, 36 caliber Phoenixes or Phoenix Eye. You know how that works. So the fight doesn't last very long, but that doesn't, it's not to say it's not epic. It's epic as shit. They get knocked out onto this roof, and the roof is like tilted at an angle, so they're fighting on the side of this thing, trying to maintain their foothold. Zorro just slices off the entire top of it so they can stand, and then the fight gets finished by an aerial slash when Ryuma's coming at Zorro. Zorro just sheaves Katetsu, grabs Wado, uses his one sword style Dragon Blaze, and just lights Ryuma on fire. And I like to think that the reason he was able to light him on fire is not just because of the friction, but also because he's a zombie and dead bodies emit, like, methane. So that's why I always imagined he caught on fire, and blew fire at that. So while Ryuma is engulfed in flames, he doesn't immediately collapse, but he realizes that the fight is over. He realizes that he's been bested. Even though he's a zombie under Moria's control, he still has that honor he had as a samurai when he was alive. So, as his last act, he takes his blade, Shusui, and he's like, "The legend of the samurai Ryuma may have passed, but his blade's legend does not end here." And he just tosses it to Zorro, and it's like both of them were like on the same wavelength, because they're like, like Zorro knows this is a very well-esteemed samurai. He's not like a cutthroat or something. He's not like a bounty hunter who's just in it for the money. This dude has like a code of conduct, so they're kind of like on the same page as like sword masters, where Zorro doesn't even have to look. After the cut was over, after he landed that blaze, Ryuma understood the fight was over, and Zorro understood that he had won. But he doesn't gloat about it or anything like that. Zorro just kind of lands, and then Ryuma tosses Shusui at him, and Zorro just kind of catches it in midair. I was worried it was going to fall out for a second. He just catches it in midair, and was just like, "Farewell, samurai. I hope that I would have gotten to fight you while you were alive in your time," or whatever. And with that, Brook's shadow leaves Ryuma, his body collapses, and Brook gets his shadow back, and everything's good. So, yeah, this becomes Zorro's new third sword, the legendary Owazamono grade sword Shusui, or Clear Autumn Water, which is very prevalent right now in Wano, because it was originally a treasure of the country, and now Zorro has it. So, I'm interested in seeing where this is going. We've already had one issue with it, where Zorro had to cut a magistrate down, so there's probably going to be a few more issues with this, and I hope that at some point during the arc, Zorro runs into Ryuma's family at some point, you know? There's even been theories that Zorro is related to Ryuma in some way, and like, you know, yeah, there is a family resemblance there, but that's because Oda's art style is very similar, because it's Oda. It was an original character designed for a one-shot, and clearly he used the same design later for Zorro in One Piece, but, you know, maybe it was, Oda might connect it back. Might be like, yeah, you you are a distant relative of Ryuma in some way. So that was pretty cool there. Number 10, Ryuma, pretty good slot for the samurai zombie dude. Moving on to number 9. Some of you might be wondering at this point, why's Luffy here, Matt? Huh? Luffy's not a swordsman. He has the Gamu Gamu no Mi. He has Haki. You know, law makes sense. Zorro, why is Luffy here? Because Luffy's in the top 10. Because he was on the list. Because Luffy is, in fact, a swordsman. See? Right here. Irrefutable evidence. Luffy using a sword. I don't know why this is so hard to understand. With 547 votes, Monkey D. Luffy. So, I don't know if this is a combination. I would like to think it's more because of the recent chapters in Wano, where Luffy gets his hand, this is a big spoiler, but gets his hands on the Nidai Katetsu, or the second generation Katetsu blade. And the way Luffy uses it, as you can well imagine, is the way Luffy would fight. He doesn't actually take it out and use it like a real sword. He takes it out and then just launches normal punches with it. But if anybody happens to be, you know, next to the person that Luffy's punching, they're gonna get sliced by this thing, and that's actually happened, where like a bunch of thugs are coming after Luffy and Zorro, and you know, they get ready to fight, and Luffy launches a punch, and there's a guy right next to the one dude, and his sword gets cut off, and he gets sliced, and just like, Luffy, put that thing down before someone gets hurt. Not only are you just swinging the sword around, you know nothing about swordsmanship, but also, it's a cursed blade. You know, like we know, like, you have a lot of luck, Luffy, and I you know, Zorro's luck won out against the Sandai Katetsu, but come on, man, that's very dangerous. To this day, to this chapter, Luffy still has it on his person. He took it from the Tengu, who was raising Otama, so we'll see exactly where that goes, but I think that's the main reason people picked Luffy. Another reason, you know, this has been a while ago, about 10 years, it was also Thriller Bark, was when Luffy absorbed the shadows of the swordsmen from the Thriller Bark, you know, victim association. They gave all the shadows to Luffy, and he could now use a sword. And when he becomes Nightmare Luffy, he has like a giant katana buster sword on his back that he uses to slice ores down with. And granted, doesn't use the sword all that much. After that, I think there was only actually that one scene where Luffy takes out that big sword and just slices ores, and then after that, he, you know, all the shadows leave him and he can no longer use it. But still, I mean, that constitutes Luffy using a sword, even if it was for the briefest of times. But yeah, and he's still using a sword right now, so Luffy's a swordsman. Concluded. There's no argument here. Moving on to the other female we have on the list, number 8 with 627 votes, Toshiki. Alright, I'm really glad Toshiki got in the top 10. I don't know why. I had this weird idea that, like, it's gonna be tough for her, because we got a lot of skilled swordsmen in One Piece. I wonder if Toshiki's gonna make it. I figured she would easily make it in the top 20, but I didn't know top 10. But no, girl nailed it! Number 8! Alright, and unlike Rebecca, Toshiki actually uses her swords to cut down the opposition. And I say swords because Toshiki does have an impressive collection. She's sort of the sword geek, or the sword otaku in One Piece. So she'll always, like, be reading, like, a dictionary or encyclopedia of all the blades, and she knows all of them by heart. In fact, I would love to see just someone talking to Toshiki about swords. Like, Toshiki could probably list off all of the 12 Saijo Owazamono grade swords, the same swords that, like, Mihawk has. I'm like, she probably knows all 12 by heart, and I'm like, well, we don't, as the fan base, so Toshiki, could you please explain what the 12 highest ranked swords in the world were? I would like to know that. But her goal as a Marine captain is to go around the world and collect all of the named blades from all the ne'er-do-wells and the pirates in the world that are using them for evil deeds. So, it's a little complicated with Zorro, because Zorro is a pirate, but he's not necessarily a bad guy. I mean, don't get me wrong, Zorro has definitely killed people in the past in One Piece, like Mr. Seven, for instance. So he definitely has blood on his sword. You know, Zorro's not completely a pacifist here, or even a little bit of one. But it's a little bit complicated there, because he's not quite as bad as, like, other pirates that'll go out there and just, like, attack towns and just wantonly kill innocent civilians and stuff. That's probably the people that Toshiki is mostly going after. She got a blade from Billy the Orca Killer, named the Wind Blowing Down the Mountain. That was the name of the sword. And later on, she got the Kashu from Mr. 11 from Baroque Works. And the blade that she uses mostly is a Wazamono grade sword, so the same as the Sandai Katetsu, which is Shigure. And we see her usually using that whenever she's, like fighting opponents on Punk Hazard or deflecting cannonballs or stuff like that. That's the main blade she uses, so just one sword style. And hey, it's not a very highly ranked sword, but hey, Zorro has the Sandai, it's the same rank. I mean, Zorro, the rank of the blade doesn't necessarily matter as much as the person that's wielding it. So with the case with Toshiki, she just really has a, you know, high affinity for using Shigure. That's probably what she's been using most of her life, so that's what she uses. Of course, you have the scene during Punk Hazard when her and Smoker got switched, and I think there was a moment where she was in Smoker's body and tried to use her sword, but it didn't work out too well, obviously, because they were switched and stuff, and the body mechanics are all off, and, you know, Smoker was kind of top-heavy there, couldn't really work that well either. But yeah, she's a very talented swordswoman, and she's achieved the rank of captain in the Marines, and we haven't really seen her that much since Punk Hazard. We see her every now and then, but, you know, Wano's coming up, and I know the Marines are kind of off limits there. It's, you know, isolated from the world government. They're not really supposed to be there, but at the same time, Smoker and Toshiki might kind of break the law there. They might be like, well, we know we're not supposed to go there, but that's not stopping them from disguising themselves and sneaking into Wano, because, come on, it's a country based around swords. Toshiki's a sword geek. Come on, she has to be there. Coming in 7th place with 843 votes, Isho, or the name he uses at the office, Admiral Fujitora. So yeah, that's like his stage name. I'm Admiral Fujitora, gonna rock your world. Alright, so he is one of the new admirals that were enlisted in the Marines through the world government draft after the events of the time skip. You had a few openings there where Akainu was promoted to fleet admiral and Aokiji decided to leave the Marines after that decision. So all you had left was Kizaru. So you had Fujitora and Green Bull that were added after the fact, and with Green Bull, we don't really know how he fights, don't know much about him really, just kind of saw him in silhouette, but when it comes to Fujitora, he fights with a blade that's also his cane, because he is in fact blind. Now, this is a reference to Zhao Toichi, who is the famous figure from Japanese film back in like the 1950s. Even in the West here, people that I'm really not a big fan of samurai movies, I've just never really watched that many of them, but even I know about like the legend of the blind swordsman, the person that's like can't see and uses a cane sword to walk around, but don't piss him off. He's usually a pacifist, but he will slice you down if you get him angry. And that's Fujitora in a nutshell. He even kind of looks the same as Toichi. So the first time we get to see him, he's just this blind old man in a casino being cheated by a bunch of other people around him, lying to him. Like, oh yeah, you lost again, old man. Freaking idiot. You know, he's blind and he's playing this game. He's so stupid he can't even see the dice. And so Fujitora is like, oh, you guys are so kind. But then Luffy comes up and says, hey, old man, you actually won that last round. They were lying to you. So, what would you do in this situation? Well, I'll tell you what Fujitora does. I mean, he is, of course, a Marine Admiral, so he cares very much about the idea of justice. And he was just cheated, basically, by these ruffians. They were taking advantage of the fact that he was a blind man to steal all of his money. So I think, you know, a slap on the wrist is necessary here. So Fujitora just takes out his sword and then very calmly proceeds to use his gravity powers to create a giant hole in the casino floor. And I think that's very apropos, actually. So, Fujitora, on top of being blind, by the way, the whole blind thing doesn't really affect him too much. Number one, because he's a swordsman already. He's trained his other senses to fight, you know, just from, like, probably the hearing and, like, the way the wind is. He could probably tell where his opponent is, so that's not really a big issue. But also, he's an expert at observation hockey, so he can kind of see people's auras around him, so this is how Fujitora sees the world. So, he's blind, but it doesn't really affect his battle skills all too much. And on top of that, the hockey and his adept senses is his devil fruit, which is unnamed, but let's just call it the gravity fruit, which allows him to manipulate gravity with his gravity sword. I just like saying the word gravity. So, yeah, he can take out his blade, and he can send up these purple rings of gravity power, I guess, and he can drag down meteors from outer space to create a giant crater, or in the situation, if he's in a building at the time, he can just make the roof just collapse in on it. He can put pressure or gravity on the ground, and then just keep pressing it down until there's a hole. He can raise other objects up, so he can attack his opponents with that. Also, I don't know if this is shown. I would assume he would be able to do this, but let's say Fujitora takes out his blade and clashes with somebody, he could then make that person float or like cancel the gravity out on them. So, you know, let's say his opponent has the high ground and tries to attack him from the air. Fujitora could just take out his blade, clash with the opponents, and then the opponent would just float up into the air like, oh, what's going on? I can't move. So very devastating ability on its own, but added with the swordsmanship skills, and Fujitora is an extremely powerful admiral. Now, Fujitora is actually, Otis kind of teased us with this a little bit, if we're being honest. He's shown Fujitora clashing with Zorro and Sabo and Law and even Doflamingo at one point, but we've never really seen a drawn-out fight between any of those characters. Even Luffy also at one point. So it's like, I'm going to introduce this really cool admiral. He's got a gravity fruit, and he's a blind swordsman, and he's super cool. And I'm going to show him, like, clashing with Luffy and Zorro and Doflamingo and all these really powerful characters to get you wondering, like, what a serious balls-out fight with them would be like. But I'm either going to cut away or just not show it. So, I mean, we're definitely going to get scenes with Fujitora in the future, and I'm looking forward to that. But, yeah, that was just kind of maybe a power gauge. I think Oda really wanted to let us know that, like, no, this guy he's the real deal. Zorro clashed with him very briefly, and he's like, whoa, this guy is strong. So, he's got Zorro's seal of approval, and that's not something easy to get. So, yeah, looking forward to Fujitora. Number 7, great slot for him. Moving on to number 6. I thought this guy was going to be a lot higher, but it is the first person on the list that has higher than 1,000 votes, just barely. But with 1,008 votes, we have Silver's Rayleigh. Okay, yeah, I know, right? I thought he was going to rank a little bit higher than number 6, but that's still, he's in the top 10, so I'm fine. Now, to be fair, we have not really seen Rayleigh bust out his sword all too much. We saw him use it against Kizaru, and then later on when he was stopping the Marines from chasing Luffy, but that was really more of a threat than anything. He didn't actually use the sword against the Marines. He just kind of took it out and was just like, he drew a line in the dirt, and he's like, anybody that wants to go after my pupil, feel free to cross this line, but I'm standing on the other side of it. And so that's right there, that's enough to make all the Marines just drop their fudge and just be like, you know, I think my grandma's making an apple pie. I think I'm gonna head home. Yeah, I think you should. So, Silver's Rayleigh is the right-hand man to the Pirate King himself, Gold D. Roger. And Roger himself was on this list. He didn't get a lot of votes either, because we'd have never seen Roger fight, period. We saw him use a cutlass in one of the flashbacks, but whether or not that was his prime, you know, weapon in battle, if he had a devil fruit, if he used hockey, I don't know. But Silver's Rayleigh was definitely the swordsman, you know, the best one on the crew, if Roger was not. And so his sword is pretty basic. We've never really got a good look at it. We don't even really know its name. But he does use a sword in combat mainly. He does not have a devil fruit. We know this because he's, you know, shown swimming in the ocean before. So that confirms he doesn't have a devil fruit. He fights only with a sword and using hockey. Keep in mind, Rayleigh is also pushing 80. I think he's in his late 70s right now, and he's still able to knock back Kizaru, who wasn't even using a real sword. Kizaru was using a light blade in order to fight him, and with the use of hockey, you know, hockey coating his blade, he was able to fight against Kizaru very on even terms. And if that fight were to continue, I have no doubt that Rayleigh would have had a very good chance of winning, but it was more of just a fight to kind of like stall out the opponent and to make sure Kizaru didn't try to go after the Straw Hats directly there. So he's trained Luffy on Ruskaina for 2 years. Some people have actually come up with the theory that Luffy, now having the Nidai Kitetsu, he might in fact be able to use it because, hey, maybe Rayleigh taught him some swordsmanship skills while on Ruskaina, and I don't think that's the case. Even if Rayleigh would have brought that up to Luffy, I'm not saying he even would have, but let's say he did. Let's say, I mean, they were training on that island for about a year and a half until Rayleigh left, and Luffy spent the next 6 months training on his own. But let's say, yeah, Luffy was one night there around the campfire, and Rayleigh was like, hey, you know, I'm just bringing this up, Luffy, but I'm pretty good at using a sword. If you want to know how to use it, I can teach you. At least the basics or something, you know, widen your horizons and stuff. And Luffy, I think, somebody that knows where he's short in, like, his weaknesses and stuff. That's the whole reason he wanted to get his crew. He would have been like, that's okay, I don't need to learn how to use a sword, Rayleigh, because I have Zorro, and Zorro could, you know, no matter how much I learn from you, Zorro's gonna be better at using a sword, so I don't need it. It's the same reason Luffy doesn't need to learn how to navigate or learn how to, you know, basic first aid. You know, he has Chopper for that, he has Nami for that, you know, so that's how Luffy is. So, yeah, there are people out there because he has the Need Eye Katetsu now. So, I guess there were some people thinking, like, Luffy has some skill with a blade now. But it would have made sense for Rayleigh to give him some lessons, but I just don't think Luffy would have gone for that. I think he would have focused on, he would have spent every waking hour on Ruskaina learning how to master hockey with his Gamu Gamu no Mi, learning to perfect Gear 4. If that probably took a lot of time in order just to figure out the general mechanism of Gear 4th. He would have to learn how to hockey works first, then Gear 4. If that took a while. So, and then the different versions of it. So, yeah. However, I will say it's very likely that he was the one that taught Shanks how to use a sword, because Shanks is also one of the most well-known swordsmen on this list. Is he on this list? No, he's not. Dang. Zorro and Shanks are both not on this list. That is so freaking weird. I could have sworn that... I'm not screwing with you here. You might be thinking, okay, come on, Tekking, quit being stupid. Obviously, Shanks and Zorro are going to be on the list. They're two of the most prominent swordsmen in all of One Piece. Guys, I don't know what to tell you. I'm not going to spoil it. I have the list right here. We'll get to it, but they're not on the list. I don't know what to tell you. All right, so, but anyway, that's Rayleigh. Swords mastered or Shanks, most definitely. Moving on to the top 5. Cue music for this one. With 1,300 votes exactly, Dracul Mihawk. Okay, I don't even know what the hell that was, but anyway, let's get a little bit more serious here. Is this okay? Okay. Dracula Mihawk is known far and wide the One Piece world as being the single most deadly swordsman on the planet, with his legendary Saijo Owazamono blade, only known as Yoru, or Night. This isn't it, but, you know, if I had a version of... I should get that, man. That was the, what was that YouTube channel? Man-at-Arms? The channel where that guy is a blacksmith and he just makes all of those crazy, like, anime and video game swords. Like, he made Cloud's Buster sword. I think he also made Mihawk's Yoru. I'm gonna link that in the description below if you want to go watch that, or in a card or something. That's an awesome video. I need to get my hands on that. You know, you could be a little bit of a One Piece fan if you get, like, just one of Zorro's swords. Like, if you get one of Zorro's swords, okay, you're a fan of One Piece. But then you get a complete collection, that's okay, you're more of a fan. But then you get Mihawk's Yoru, a sword that you can't even really just buy, you have to make, or you have to, like, hire someone to make for you, you know? That's where it's at. So anyway, yeah, Mihawk, right. Now, Mihawk is the best swordsman in One Piece. He's regarded as the world's strongest, but this isn't a list on the, you know, the strongest swordsman ranked by power, based on popularity. He ranked number 5, which is something that, you know, you'd think that best swordsman in the world, he would rank maybe 2nd or 3rd, but no, number 5. I'm still okay with that because it is in the top 5. Now, Mihawk, his influence in the One Piece world has been, you know, minimal in terms of actual appearances. He shows up in the first in the first saga, in the East Blue saga, confronts Zorro, shows Zorro about, like, the bigger world that's out there and how much he has to learn, and serves as like a benchmark, you know, like, this is where you're at right now and this is where I'm at. You have a long way to go, boy, but I respect you for doing what you're doing. And, of course, the whole scene where Zorro gets defeated by Mihawk and he breaks 2 of Zorro's katanas, but he's like, scars on the back are a swordsman's shame. And I'm like, Mihawk's just like, you're damn right, son. You're damn right. Shing! I'm still gonna cut you, though, but you're damn right. You could take it. So, after that, he appears periodically. He shows up on that island with Shanks. He shows up at the meeting with Sengoku after the defeat of Crocodile. Not until Marineford does he really play a big role. He's there with the gathering of the other 7 warlords of the sea to fight against Whitebeard. And that's one of my favorite scenes in One Piece. This was before Luffy and the gang even showed up yet. Mihawk is just kind of standing there on the platform with all the other warlords, and then Whitebeard shows up, and he's just standing there on his ship, the Moby Dick, not really doing anything yet. He's just kind of commanding his officers and his allies. And so Mihawk is not really the person that takes initiative on his own to, like, you know, Mihawk's not going to be like, all right, Marines, I'll do whatever you tell me to do. I'll be first out there on the battlefield. That's not the kind of guy Mihawk is. He's very chaotic neutral. He's very just like, I want to go wherever I want and do whatever I want. Really, the only reason that he's part of Marineford is because it piqued his interest. I can guarantee you that's the only reason. If Mihawk didn't want to be part of Marineford, he would have just said no. And, like, what are the Marines going to do? Like, I mean, they could go after him him, they could try to force him, but it's not going to end well. So that's the kind of guy he is. But, you know, this probably piqued his interest. He's like, oh man, the Marines are fighting against Whitebeard. He's going to be there. All these strong fighters are going to be there. Yeah, I'll go. That sounds interesting. Also, I'm interested in maybe seeing, you know, what, you know, Luffy or Zorro, they might make an appearance to try to save Ace or something. Let's see where this is going. So he's just kind of watching the fight. But then he stands up on the platform all of a sudden. And everyone around him, all the Marines, all the warlords, the admirals, they're like, whoa. Mihawk's finally, he's stepping up. I didn't call that one. He's one of the first people to step up. Mihawk steps up, and Doflamingo's like, are you gonna grace them with your sword for once? And Mihawk's just like, this is a weird thing. I think they edited this out in the English version, but in the Japanese it's there. Mihawk is just kind of staring at Whitebeard. And he says, I just want to test the gap in power between me and him. How far I, the strongest swordsman in the world, one of the warlords, how much of a gap there is between one of the Yonko, one of the 4 emperors of the sea. And so he takes out Yoru and just with just a single slash, just whoosh, and it just rips the entire battlefield right down the middle, and it goes straight toward Whitebeard, and it doesn't hit him. Jozu blocks him with his diamond devil fruit and throws the slash up to the sky, and then after that, Mihawk just kind of sheaths his blade and is like, all right, I did what I had to do. You know, later on, Luffy shows up, and Zorro and Mihawk confronts him, and he's like, sorry, Shanks, I know that you like Luffy and everything, but I'm not going to go easy on him. And he doesn't, really. Luffy kind of realizes pretty early on with Mihawk, like, he is not the right opponent for me. I can't really fight him. That scene with the bazooka and almost getting his arms chopped off. The question remains is, if Mihawk is the strongest swordsman right now, who exactly was the strongest before him? Who did Mihawk defeat to get that title? And the general consensus is that it is Shanks. In fact, it's very hot in this room right now. It is Shanks is the person he defeated. So we're gonna, you know, maybe make a video about that later, because like I said, Shanks isn't here. But yeah. So yeah, Mihawk, I don't really think much more needs to be said about the dude. Very suave, kind of Spanish aesthetic about him. He's got the awesome hat. He's got the cross necklace, which is actually a sword that he breaks out to either eat his takoyaki or to fight Small Fry, whichever he happens to be doing that day. Has one of the 12 strongest blades in the entire world. Trained Zorro. And we don't really know how that training went exactly, if it was more off-handed or if he directly sparred with Zorro. If he did directly spar with him, I can guarantee you that's where Zorro got that scar. Like, maybe he trained him like, you know, the way he trained him about hockey. He's like, until you perfect armament hockey, I forbid you to drink alcohol. Maybe he did stuff like that, or sent him against the baboons, the human drills. But maybe right before Zorro left the island to join up with the crew, he had a sparring match with Mihawk, maybe, and that's like his final test, and he failed and he got the scar or something. But we still need to kind of see Zorro fight Mihawk, you know? People have thought, me included, that because Mihawk trained Zorro, that kind of takes a little bit of the tension out from their inevitable fight. Unless Mihawk was dethroned by somebody. He was defeated by, like, Shiryu or someone. By the way, Shiryu ranked very low on this list also. Yeah, if Shiryu was defeating Mihawk, and then Zorro has to avenge his master and go up against Shiryu, that would be cool. So, yeah, I don't know where it's gonna go, but Mihawk, pretty fly. Pretty suave. Number 4, with 1,426 votes, our favorite skeletal swordsman, yo-ho-ho-ho, Brook. Alright, so yeah, getting to some Straw Hat action now. Alright, so we all know Brook. Interesting is that he joined the crew and he was also a swordsman, so we kind of have 2 on the crew right now. Now, Brook can't really hold a candle to Zorro in the way... It's just a different style of swordsmanship, you know? Like, Zorro fights with Santoryu and katanas. Brook uses a fencing cane sword kind of style blade, and that's his main, kind of format for fighting. He doesn't use the sword the same way that Zorro does. But even so, there is a big gap in power there. Now, at the beginning, he was very adept with it. He was able to slay a bunch of zombies, and didn't really hold up to Ryuma all that much, though. There was just too much of a gap of power. But he still trained, and even despite being a skeleton, he can still, increase his power in other ways. He was able to take out Talaran, which is this giant spider, and he does the, 3 yomi, pace humming, arrow knot slash. Like, that's his signature technique. Over the time skip, he had his sword sharpened by the long arm tribe, and on top of that, he also mastered the true potential of the yomi yomi no mi, which allowed him to channel the powers of the underworld itself. I am not joking about that. That's how he described his power. I can channel the freezing wind of the nether realm and convert it into my blade to make an ice sword. And that's how he used to defeat Zio, and he clashed with Sheepshead, who was a headliner on the Kaido crew. So very skilled with it, especially since the time skip. Not somebody that is going to get into a really, you know, balls out fight. Like, it's not going to be like Brook versus Shiryu, or Brook versus Mihawk, or Brook versus Fujitora, or anything like that. But still very skilled with a blade. And also, because he has the power of his soul music, he uses his sword a lot, like with like what's that thing called for the violin that you use to play the violin with? I'm blanking on that right now. But he uses his sword in place of that when he's playing his violin, and he can actually have like a battle music or the lullaby to knock his opponents out. So different kind of swordsmanship style, combining his yomi yomi no mi to either entrance your opponents with music or to freeze them with the winds of Hades, whichever comes first there. So let me just say, Brook, you're a pretty smart skeleton, which is doubly impressive because you don't even got a brain. Yoo-hoo-hoo! Alright, so now moving on to the top 3. We all know who they're gonna be, but it's like the order that they're in, you know? So let's take bets. Play some bets, everybody. Play some bets. Come on. No, you already did that earlier, son. You get the hell out of here. No, we do not accept rubber chickens. I don't know what the hell you were thinking. Alright, our bets locked in. Everyone's good? Alright. Number 3, with 1,500 votes exactly. This is very specific here. Trafalgar D. Waterlaw. Alright, so, what to say about Law? Oh, right, I put his sword over there. Okay, I'm not gonna go over there and pick it up. But what to say about Law, right? Well, he's a doctor. Okay, so, you know, he's got that. He also has the power of the Oppi Oppi no Mi, which is incredibly godly. Basically allows him to create a space where he is God, for all intents and purposes, so that's pretty good. He also has the Cursed Blade, Demon's Wail, alright? Now, it's an unranked blade, but it does have a name, and it is cursed. He didn't really use his blade all too much. I think he used it against the Marines when he used his shambles, but he never used it directly to harm somebody. It wasn't really until later that we got all these different abilities that he has, like Radio Knife, where he can channel electricity into his sword and then use that to attack his opponents. You know, I think that's one of the reasons why everyone loved Law so much. He's just cool. You know, he's a cool guy. He wears a cool hat. He has a cool outfit. His sword looks cool. Wait, no, that's Yubashiri, but his sword looks cool. You know, his devil fruit is not just one aspect. He has the power of electricity and radiation and spatial manipulation, and he could shoot out, like, invisible bullets with his injection shot. It's just so many cool things that he can do. The way he talks is cool, right? He's got the soul patch. I don't know if you consider that cool. That's more of an opinion thing on facial hair, but it's pretty cool, is what I'm saying there. Alright, so, yeah, I expected Law to be in the top 3 easily. That was something that came along. That was not a surprise for me. Although I was expecting him to be number 2, right behind whoever won number 1 slot, and we all know who won number 1 at this point. If it's not Zorro and it's not Shanks, I mean, we all know there's only one person it could conceivably be. But, yeah, so anyway, Law, I know this is kind of brief for talking about him, but I have literally made, I think, 5 or 6 videos on Law over the years. I did a discussion when he was a warlord. I did a discussion on his devil fruit. I did a discussion on his immortal surgery, which is a certain aspect of his devil fruit. I did I think one on his history. I mean, I've done so much about Law, so I'm not going to go too much more into it here. But we all know who he is. He was, I think, a lot of people's favorite supernova when he was first introduced, and I'm sure he was a lot of people's favorite warlord when he became one, but he's not anymore. Yeah, he's currently in Wano, and he clashed with Hawkins recently, and I think there's going to be a lot more of him coming up, and he's probably going to be integral for taking down Kaido, so we're going to wait and see what's going on there. Okay, so moving on to number 2, and I actually think number 1, I think I'm going to announce them at the same time as what I'm going to do, because these two are very famous in the One Piece story. They're brothers, actually, so that makes more sense. So yeah, it was a shoo-in that they were going to win, so I'm just going to announce them both at the same time. Number 2, with 3.5 billion votes. That is right, half of the population of the planet Earth voted for Billy, the younger brother of Wicked Dick that fought Zorro in that bar in that one filler episode. You know what? I'm not even mad. I'm not even mad, because that just confirms that half of the planet Earth is not just a fan of One Piece, but also is a fan of my videos. Yeah. Most of them probably don't have YouTube channels because they would be subscribed to me. I didn't know I had that large of an audience this whole time, but I mean, that's incredible. Like a world leader, or like Trump, or like the Queen of England or somebody had to have seen I was doing this and spread it to their country. Like the Queen of England comes out and is like, "Oh, loyal subjects, as you well know, I am a fan of One Piece. Please vote in this teenage boys who's actually 25, popularity poll for the best swordsman in One Piece." That's incredible. But, no. Actually, the number one slot even takes that away. I mean, 3.5 billion views. That's pretty good. I mean, 3.5 billion votes. That's pretty good. But number one just takes the cake on this one. Number one, with 69 centillion votes, Wicked Dick. And he didn't even use a sword. He used a giant gun. Or a cannon, or whatever the hell that thing was. I don't know. I don't care. It's fine. 69 centillion votes. That's not even the remainder of every human on the planet. That's every mammal. That's every insect. That's every bacterium on the planet. Not only that, but I'm imagining little bacteria with little iPads voting. But not only that, that means that I have just proven extraterrestrial life exists, and they have access to the internet, apparently, because that's incredible. This is the most successful popularity poll on the planet. I should be able to retire after I do this. Okay. Anyway, yeah, all right. Okay, let's seriously get to it. Okay, I've been pulling you around long enough now. Number two, with 2,022 votes, Shanks. We don't know Shanks' last name. I don't know. He's probably a D. I would assume he is, but we don't know. So just Shanks. Enough said there. He was most likely the swordsman that, maybe Mihawk got the title from. We know Mihawk and Shanks would, spar a lot. And, maybe, Shanks is still a really good swordsman, but maybe he just, passed the title on to Mihawk just as, you are very, noble with the sword and everything. I'm just gonna give you my title. I don't know if that's the case there. His sword's name is Griffin. Most likely a ranked blade, but we do not know, what rank it is. In fact, I would not be surprised if it was one of the Saijo Owazumono swords. Very easily that could be the case. He's had the sword for a long time now, and made even more impressive by the fact that Shanks only has one arm, because he lost his one arm when he tried to save Luffy from, he did save Luffy from the Lord of the Coast. Now, Shanks is someone that we really haven't seen much of in terms of combat. He clashed with Whitebeard that one time, and he clashed with Akainu that one time. And beyond that, and also the time that he used his sword against Mihawk, but we haven't saw that. We have never seen that fight, so we don't really know much more about it there. He's got Hockey. That's a testament for just being able to block Akainu's magma fist with relative ease, so we know that about him. When he showed up to the Reverie at the Gorosei, he didn't have his sword on him, at least we don't think he did, which made sense. He was meeting the most powerful people in the world, so they probably wouldn't let him keep his sword, or maybe he left his sword behind to make sure he was, business here. Also, Samurai Gandhi did not make it on the list, unfortunately. I don't know, but, yeah. So, Shanks. He's much of a mystery now, even though he appeared in Chapter 1 of the series. He's very much a mystery even now at Chapter 918. But suffice it to say, you do not mess with him. He's a pretty carefree guy for the most part, but, he's also he knows his business. He's a pirate, he's a Yonko. He has a pretty small crew compared to other Yonko, but he knows the deal. All right, he knows what time it is when it comes to fighting, and he knows how to, deal with all this shit. So, yeah, he's probably, if he isn't really the most, strongest swordsman in the world, let's say Mihawk really is, does have that title, if Mihawk and Shanks were going to fight, Mihawk would actually win. Even if that's the case, he would be easily number 2 or number 3 in terms of power. So number 2 on this list and number 2 in the actual series, I think that would make perfect sense. And also, Mihawk is actually, I believe, older than Shanks is. Because I used to think that maybe Mihawk would grow up and aspire to be Shanks, but no, Mihawk was actually, I think, older than Shanks. So that's clearly not the situation there. Mihawk didn't grow up and, like, admire him. He was actually older, so... I don't know what the relationship with the two of them actually is, or if it's just the relationship between, like, I'm a swordsman and you're a swordsman, or if there's something more deeply rooted to that. I do not know. But we will see. We will see in the future. All right. So now, before we get to number one, I wanted to go through some joke entries we got. Obviously, I left an other spot in the list for people to type in their own entries. So obviously, there were a lot of people that just went crazy with that. So let me just go down this list really quick. With 9 votes, Ichigo Kurosaki. So as homage to him, as well as the fact I used to review Bleach on this channel for 5 years, I'll put Ichigo's Zangetsu, his completed Zangetsu, one of them, up on that door, next to his combat pass, which is behind it. And yes, I have yet to watch the Netflix live-action Bleach movie, but I will be watching it, and I will do a video on it, so don't worry about that. So Ichigo got 9 votes, so which I appreciate. I received 21. Okay. Law Tekking got 4. Wicked Dick, in actuality, got 14. His brother Billy got 11. This is a good one. Nami's Cleavage got 2 votes. I'm not even mad, because you guys know me. And now I'm just thinking, like, Nami's Cleavage. Like, now I'm imagining Nami's boobs have attained, like, sentience. And they're, like, Nami's asleep. And, like, you ever see that movie with Seth Green, The Devil's Hands, Are Idle Playthings, where his right arm gets possessed by the devil and it goes and kills people while he's, like, asleep? That's what I'm imagining now. Like, Nami is sleeping topless on the sunny, and then her boobs achieve sentience. They wake up and they, like, pick up Zorro's swords and manage to unsheath it. And they go, and Nami wakes up covered in blood. Oh my god, my boobs are... Okay, so that's number 2 votes for Nami's Cleavage, which is, okay, that's appropriate, Alright, so, okay. And, yeah. Now, one more thing to bring up. I wanted to mention the lowest, like a dishonorable mention kind of thing. The one that I did put on the list of people that you could vote for, the person that received the fewest votes on that actual list, okay? And the one that I think took that away with a measly 4 votes, Charlotte Raisin. I mean, it makes sense. We don't really know much, we haven't really seen him all that much. He only had that one little scuffle with Luffy, and he's a very minor character, but I thought it would just be interesting, just to let you know, like, who was the one that was on the list and who got the least votes. So that was, in fact, Charlotte Raisin with 4. Okay. So anyway, with that all being said, I don't think I really need to announce number 1. He took it away with over 25% of the votes. I think it was like 26, actually. 26% of the votes. 4,864 of them, Roronoa Zorro. Do-do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do-do-do-do. I'm doing Zorro's theme, but I can't because, copyright, so do-do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do-do-do-do. What am I supposed to say about the dude, alright? Zorro goes beyond just a badass one-piece swordsman, alright? If you are going to make a list of, like, badass anime swordsmen, hell, even badass fictional swordsmen, just in the realm of all fiction, not just anime, but video game swordsmen, movie swordsmen, cartoons, just any fictional character that has ever picked up a blade. If you're gonna do like a top 10 list of that, Zorro needs to be on that. Easy. Needs to be on that, alright? It's just hard not to include him. He's been in the series since, like, Chapter 3. He's the first crewmate of the Straw Hat Pirates. He has a unique fighting style, 3 swords, Santoryu, 2 swords in either hand, and then 1 in his mouth. He carries the Wado Ichimonji, which is an Owazamono grade sword. We've already discussed the other Owazamono, Shusui, as well as the Sandai Katetsu, which... is his 3rd one. He also had the Yubashiri, which was, it was a Ryu Wazamoto. It was actually my favorite sword, and actually it's also my favorite one that I own because it has, like, a different kind of grip than the other ones. It's a very good replica here. But, yeah, so he's used 4 of these blades throughout the series, only 3 right now, of course. He has the flying sword attacks. He has my favorite technique, which I just love to say. I gotta do it. I gotta step back when I say it, though. Hold on. Let me, as an honor to Zorro, let me try to actually do this. Alright, I don't know, I really hope I don't chip a tooth or something trying to do this, but, okay, let's see if we can make this work here. Okay, no, that's not a good idea. Don't put swords in your mouth, kids. All right, I can't do it, but I'll try. All right. Ichi dai sansen dai sensekai! I'm a nerd. Okay, but yeah. Really, Zorro represents to me, someone that, yes, he's not a pacifist, like, by any stretch of the imagination. He will fight an opponent, and he will kill an opponent, alright? That's what he does. But he does so in extremely honorable ways, okay? Like, when he fought Mihawk, scars on the back are a swordsman's shame. He's just like, I am not just a cutthroat. I am not someone that'll just go around and take an easy out, like stabbing people in the back or like assassination or anything like that. I am the kind of guy that fights my opponent head on, and whenever he has his bandana, he puts on whenever he fights a worthy adversary. He won't cut people that are weak, that he perceives as like, like, oh, I'm not going to fight you. You're clearly not a match for me. I would kill you. I'm not doing that. I'm not fighting you. It'd be very dishonorable. In Wano recently, he was, a bunch of men were attacking Okiku, ready to kidnap her, but they were like sumo wrestlers, so they weren't wearing much. And Zorro is just like, he just lets them go by, and Luffy's like, why didn't you attack them? And Zorro's like, yeah, I don't know, man. Attacking guys that are half naked, it just seems kind of dishonorable, So that's the kind of guy he is. And when he fails with dignity. All right, he's like, he's like, I can't beat Mihawk. I lost to you, but I'm not going to run and hide. I'm not going to run away. I'm certainly not going to beg for my life. That is something you will never see Zorro do. Zorro will never like lay down his sword and be like, please do not kill me. No, Zorro's like, I lost. Got to accept the punishment. That's what a swordsman does. So that's the situation there. I don't think I need to talk more about Zorro. We all knew he was going to be number one from the beginning. I knew it. You knew it. So I didn't do this poll so much because who's going to be number one? Because I knew it was going to be Zorro. I did this poll to find out who would the other ones be. I was interested in who would be number 2 or number 3. I thought Law or Brook were a shoo-in to be number 2. Shanks makes sense, but I didn't know he was going to get it. I thought Mihawk was going to maybe rank a little higher. I certainly thought Rayleigh would have been in the top 3 or 4. Toshiki was a surprise. Luffy was certainly a surprise. I kind of put him in as sort of a joke, but you still voted for him. I'm glad Okiku and Rebecca made it up so high. Very good, very nice. Thanks to every single one of you that voted. We had, I wrote the number down here somewhere, 14,187 votes total. Thanks to every single last one of you that voted. It was a lot of fun. I love doing these popularity polls. We'll probably do another one again at some point. Don't know what it'll be about, but we'll get to it. Yeah, that's pretty much everything I have, guys. Leave your comments down below on who you think is the best swordsman in One Piece and how awesome Zorro is. Yeah, that's all I got. Tekking101, signing out.